we're going to do now, I'm going to ask those of you who feel comfortable to share your symbols, to share that with us. There's no need to share, so if you don't feel like sharing that, it's fine. You share it with us on paper then, but if you want to share it in the group, you're welcome to do that. Okay. Anybody?
I said my symbol was, I said my symbol was a smile because whether I was on the bus looking out or in my interviews or like on the playground, obviously there's like a language barrier, but when you smile, it, like everyone understands that, and it can be reassuring, or it could be like a sign that you want a friendship, or that you're excited, or that you're nervous, or whatever. But we all share the same emotions, and a smile can convey a lot of that.
My symbol was reaching. Both literally and figuratively, the children were always reaching. When I played with them, they reached to be picked up or to look at my camera, or just to catch my attention, or especially John Hines' attention. At school, they had an insatiable curiosity. They were asking me many questions. They wanted to learn things in English, and they wanted to learn about my home, so they were reaching for knowledge and truth. And in the interviews, the children had goals and dreams that they were desperately reaching for. Some of them felt that their dreams were beyond their reach, but others were boosted by their communities and those around them, so that they can reach higher.
I just get back to the two of them because I think I want to just ask a follow-up question. I'll come to you now. What does that tell you about the South African children, and what does it tell you about yourself? So maybe you can just reflect on that if you want to.
I really felt that the South African children had goals that they were reaching for, and that they weren't easily dismayed, I guess is what I will say, because there's a level of persistency and determination in reaching for something. I don't know what it tells me about myself. I guess I need some self-reflection.
I noticed I felt a lot more similarities to them than differences, I guess. And of course, like, their setting looks different than my elementary school and everything, and they look different than I do, but I don't know. When I was talking to them or playing, like, especially when I was playing with them on the playground or like waving at them on the bus, like, that's what I did when I was little, and it's just, I don't know, I just saw many more similarities than I expected, I guess.
That is that connection
Yeah.
to your own experience.
I was going to say, along with Warren, I also use a smile as one of my symbols for connection, because it is just a universal symbol. Everyone understands that emotion and all emotions. And I added to that by saying touch and other gestures of like warmth, because we went into a kindergarten classroom and the kids didn't speak English, and so we smiled at them, they smiled back, and they were working on writing their numbers. And so I took a little girl's hand was having trouble, and I traced the number, and so I had my hands on her hand, and she didn't know who I was, and here I am reaching over her, and we were doing the numbers together, and we had this huge language barrier, but my smile and like touching her and like a warm gesture was universal, and we connected with that. So I had that for connect, and I didn't know if we had to give a symbol for disconnect, but I thought the technology that we had with us really summarized our disconnect, because even though they loved seeing it and they were interested in it, it really kind of summarized to me the fact that we're so different. Here I have my iPad, my iPhone, my camera that they're interested in, but they don't know anything about it. They're even scared to touch it. They're so amazed by it. And it just shows this huge difference in our worlds, the fact that here we are with all of this technology, and it's a huge disconnect, but not a bad disconnect, just I felt that kind of summarized the differences we had, was one of them through our technology.
So I almost hear that the technology made the disconnect, but the human endeavor made it connect.
Yeah, like that's never going to change, and no matter where you go or who you're with, the basic level of humanity that we all share is a common connecting thread, but our technology showed our differences and disconnected us from them just because we had it and they didn't at a very simple level.
I drew a picture of a person dancing. Feel free to make fun of it because it's an awful stick figure. However, in the literal sense, the kids were just, A, they loved dancing, and B, they were amazing at it. And everyone talked about their happiness and, you know, that just constant jubilation. And that was really epitomized through their dancing. But on the other hand, I also got the sense that they were very closed off and wouldn't open up to the full degree that, you know, we wanted them to, that a lot of the times they opted to say they weren't comfortable to talk about a certain subject, or it was like a constant happiness, there was no negativity. And again, you can express those emotions through dance, and that was something that we never saw. And so that was why I chose dance as symbol, because it kind of paralleled both sides of the positive and not seeing the negative so far that we've seen. Was there something else I was supposed to say?
I was just wondering how does that, what does that tell you about the children? But to a certain extent you've answered that, but maybe you want to elaborate a bit on.
Well, everyone's been talking about the connection. Well, I can't dance, so...
That's for sure. They teach you.
And I know that at certain times I have a lot of trouble opening up as well, but never to the extent that these children have, you know, closed off that certain, you know, level to themselves. I'm not sure if I answered that question, but...
That's fine.
Okay.
There's no right or wrong question. Okay. So you, let's see, it's great. Others, are you?
I compared the process of meeting and seeing the children for the first time as getting in the pool for the first time. And when you're first getting used to the water, you kind of like dip your toes in to see how cold it's going to be, or but then eventually, before you know it, you're completely under the water and have been in the pool for hours and didn't even realize the temperature anymore. So I felt like that was kind of the same thing. You know, the kids would kind of smile at us and we would smile at them, and that was kind of like getting our toes wet. And then before you knew it, they were jumping on our backs and we were playing with them and doing all sorts of different games or talking and learning about them. So that was my comparison to the process.
My symbol was the end of a storm with the sun is beginning to come through again, because these kids, they have so many troubles in their lives, whether it be dealing with family issues, you know, drugs, alcohol, gangs, violence, and yet they still maintain that optimism. There's hope that there's something better out there, which I compare to like the end of a storm where, yeah, it's still raining, it's still going on, but you see the sun start to come through and you realize like it's going to get better and there is something greater and as happier out there. And I guess reflecting in on myself, it made me realize like how pessimistic I can be sometimes, where I'm like, oh wow, like it can't get any worse than this. And these kids, they have so many more troubles than I know I will never experience, and they still have this hope, which makes me want to be more positive, be more optimistic, because if they can, then surely I can be too.
Could you get a sense of why this is so? Why do they see this light?
I don't really know. Like their hope was just very inspiring, and I wish I knew like the source of it. But I feel like maybe it's an outlet, because when they talked about like playing rugby or fixing cars or anything like that, like their faces lit up. Like there's something that they can use to make their lives better.
In all three of our interviews, each of the kids said that they wanted to be something that their parents either are or wanted to be when they were younger. And I think that was their motivation. So my symbol is a circle, and one is an arrow looking backwards, and one going forwards, and the one going forwards is longer, hopefully, so that they won't just make it a circle, so that their kids will just see like, oh, my parents wanted this dream, but they never achieved it. But they'll actually achieve that dream and make that their motivation. And so I thought it was really like family focused, which sometimes is hard to relate to in the U.S. because we have like lots of different options and we see like lots of different people doing different things, and like they only see certain things going on, and so.
So they almost caught up. You wish for them not to be caught up in a certain cycle.
I chose an apple or like a fruit because like some of the kids you could tell had a good support system and were nice and like shiny and polished, but then other kids you could tell had a few like bruises on them, but like they say like bruises usually taste just as sweet, so there was still like a sweetness there. And then kind of along with that, some unfortunately are still thrown away or not taken care of, but that fruit still has the chance to like form its own tree and like create its own like I guess more apples and still have an effect, I guess.
So you see the different groups of people.
Yeah, there was definitely, and even kids who were struggling more still, like Dana said, still had that optimism. And like what Nora said, they still had a strength to them and resilience to what was going on.
But you've also seen others that doesn't have that anymore.
I don't think I saw that in who I talked to. I mean, there was maybe like a hint of it, but on like most of it, they were very, still had hopes and still they wanted to do this and they were going to do this.
My symbol was 2 hands, like holding hands, because when we went into the classrooms yesterday, one of the first things that kind of like took me aback was the young girls. They just took my hands and they were holding my hands, and I was like, they'd never even met me before. They didn't really know me. They asked me maybe a few questions. We talked a little bit, but they immediately wanted to just hold my hand, and one girl was like linking my arm, and I was just thinking how that must have been like a sense of security for them, because I know the other day when we did our interviews, a lot of them were talking about how either both their parents weren't in their lives, or one parent wasn't in their lives, or one had already passed away. And to me, that kind of, I thought, wow, maybe they just, they thought I was going to go away, or they wanted to make sure I was going to stay there. So it was that sense of security for them. They wanted to make sure I wasn't going anywhere. Because in America, we don't really, when you first meet someone, you're not just going to hold their hand to make sure they're going to stay there. You're just talking to them. They're not just going to walk away. But I guess for them, they needed that physical interaction to make sure I would be there with them. So.
What did that do for you?
It kind of made me feel good that they trusted me, that they wanted to hold my hand, that they wanted me to stay there with them, and not that, it didn't really matter if I walked away. Like, they wanted me to continue to talk with them, and they wanted to learn about me. They wanted, because they took me to show their computer room, they wanted me to see that. They wanted me to sit down and draw a picture with them and sing songs. So I just felt good that they wanted to take the time to get to know me.
So was it a sense of acceptance?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The symbol I use, we kind of see in the U.S. a lot, is like peace, love, and happiness. And I thought those kind of like came through to a lot of the themes we noticed in our interviews. For peace, I kind of said like safety and security was so important to them. And you think about even with us, like with the similarities, yeah, you want to be safe and you want to feel secure, but that was just something that came through so much. And they talked about that in aspects of their community as well as their family and with their friends, and like avoiding peer pressure. And then with the love, so many of them talked about people that did support them as well as didn't support them. So you could tell that they really like sought out having like that loving, supporting relationship in their lives, and I thought that was definitely a big similarity. And then lastly, with the happiness, I kind of related it more to like ambitions and passions and things they cared about and wanted to do, because at least all the kids in our group met, they all had like a really clear vision of what they wanted to become. And maybe they didn't know exactly how to get there, but they had complete confidence that they would. And I thought that was something that, yeah, we share at times, but maybe sometimes we tend to be more vague, whereas I was just so inspired by their commitment to what they wanted to do.
So you felt connected, and as your symbol extends in all three, you felt connected.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of like along with what Lauren said, like I definitely felt like much more of a connection than like a separation.
Was there any sense of disconnect?
I guess the only sense of disconnect would be like wants and needs. And I guess that, I don't know, like I just think immediately how about
in the US are just like, oh, I need this or I need that, and you don't need it. Like even in the airport, I was like, oh, I need Twizzlers. You know what I mean? Like I don't need that. Whereas their set of wants and needs are completely separate, and they would never, they would never say something like that. Whereas we take so many things, I think, for granted as wants and needs that really aren't.
For me, I wanted something to symbolize opportunity, so I chose a seed because there's so much ability within that seed, and the children have the abilities, but they need the proper cultivation for that to, grow and become something beautiful. And each of the kids has each of these abilities within themselves, but the community is what I use to represent the cultivation, where if you have the positive environment, it has the chance to do that, but you really do need the support systems for that.
So you see these children as having the potential, as what you see for them inside an environment that develops that potential.
I drew a peace sign, and on the outside, I had all the personality traits that all the kids seem to display, like creative, ambitious, brave, inspirational. And then in the inside, I made a peace sign, and then I put all the different ways that they're told, like by their family, society, their resources that are available to them, and then by their own dreams. So to me, they were a lot similar to us, but their circumstances are so different that they don't have the ability necessarily to achieve their dreams always. Like the last girl that we interviewed was older, like she was about to graduate, and she didn't let her circumstances hold her back, and she's very determined to achieve her dreams, but who knows if she will actually be able to do that, because while she doesn't let them affect her, they inevitably will, which is just so unfortunate.
And in what sense can you identify with that position? Have you ever experienced
I mean, I can't identify because, like, I wanted to go to college, so I went to college. I wanted to come here, and I came here. And it was just so sad to me that she is going to be a victim of her circumstances. And when we asked her what one thing she would want to change, she said her circumstances, because she doesn't want future generations to live the same way as her. But on the opposite side, they're all still so optimistic and don't think of it any differently, because that's how they live and that's how they grow up, so they don't know any different.
Was there any connection that gave you some hope about this situation?
I mean, she was really adamant about helping other kids too, because she said that a lot of times when kids are younger, people tell them that they can't achieve their dreams, and she said that she wants to help other kids realize that they can be whatever they want to be and that their dreams are achievable. So I thought she was really inspirational.
So the determination was something that you really learned from.
Yes, definitely.
Can I share mine? So this is my fourth time here, and every time I come here, it's always kind of a very powerful experience in different levels and in different ways. So I've been playing a lot on the iPad, the logo game where you have to figure out. You've probably all seen that. So I drew the In-N-Out burger sign. I'm also from Southern California, so that's a reference for me. But I always see us as, we're coming into South Africa. We're coming into these lives. We're coming into the school. So I was there for 2 days, kind of there, around them, seeing you all kind of interact so nicely with these kids. All the things you talk about are just perfect kind of examples of kind of coming in and the power and the, just the nice feeling you kind of get from that. But then there's the out, right? We leave. And I have the bus kind of going through the drive-through, right? So we're in, we're ordering, we're enjoying, it's great. But we get on the bus and then we leave again. And, I've left 3 times, and so there will be a 4th time. So yesterday, at the end of the day, we get on the bus, wave goodbye, see the kids smiling, had good interaction. I had some interaction time. It was great. It's always kind of very uplifting, very personal. But then I'm gone, And so what's the connection anymore, for me? I can see the connections through the research that I do. It's through the classes that I teach. It's through, contributions to ASA and to you. I try to make some kind of connection somehow back always. But there's always this very uncomfortable kind of in and out feeling to the process. And I struggle with it every single time here.
So you feel connected for a while and then disconnect.
Right.
Have to disconnect and you feel bad about that.
Yeah, bad, just uncomfortable, frustrated maybe. Gosh, what else can be done? Hate to say goodbye. I've got some nice images and stuff on the iPad, in my mind, camera, and then it's gone.
Can I ask you something, and you need to answer if you don't want to, but how do you think the South African children experience this? Your in and out.
I'm thinking maybe the same way. I don't know, Am I ever going to see that guy again? Am I ever going to see any of you again? I know for a few of you, you saw one on one day, you did an interview, and then the next day, and that's a little added kind of bonus, right? You had a double day kind of connection, and how extra powerful that can be for you. But it's difficult, It's not something I feel always good about in the end. So.
I have something to share about that in particular. One little boy whose name was Colin said to me, "Do you know Daniel Buck?
Oh, okay.
Can you please tell him I say hello? Can you please take a picture of him and tell him I say hello?" He took me to the computer lab when I was in the 5th grade.
Wow.
So I sent him a picture.
Okay, so now I'm feeling better.
Yeah, there's something there, a connection from the other. But the children also make connections, and that connections might mean something, and they might take that with them.
Well, I know me personally, a lot of the children asked for my phone number because they wanted to try and contact me. Whether or not they're actually going to do that, I don't know, but I gave it to them because they were all talking about how one girl had a BlackBerry and others had cell phones. So who knows, they might try and contact me and tell me how their day went. I don't know. So that's still kind of a unknown connection that we might still reconnect again in the future. I don't know.
I kind of think, going off of what you said, Dr. Liddell, I kind of think that the kids don't feel that yet, that we're in and out, but that they will, because I thought the same thing going in, are they going to be, they know that we're leaving, and they've definitely seen American students come in before, and I think they know how this works, which is why they were so can you write your name down, they were so much, because they know we're not coming back, and I was kind of wondering, why are they still happy to see us, because if I were them, I feel really jaded, you're leaving, you're not staying. And I noticed when we were outside on the day where there wasn't school, a couple of parents were looking at us, and they weren't coming over, and they didn't want to really seem to meet us. And I'm wondering if, as they're going to get older, they're going to look back and think about that, because I think some of the adults maybe look at us and think we are in and out, and they do look at us like that. And I'm wondering if the kids' innocence right now is holding them on to well, I'm so happy you're here for right now. But I wonder, I'm just a psychology major, so it's kind of my nature, but to wonder when they get older, maybe they will look back, and that's why the adults were kind of looking, and they weren't so sure, and I think that maybe they someday will look back and say, why didn't they stay, and not really understand it, but I think in the moment they're just so excited and just to have any sort of interaction with us, but I noticed the adults were a little wary to come over and to talk to us, and I wonder if they kind of know that we're not staying. So, just the observation.
I think sort of going off that, I noticed when I was playing out on the playground with some of the kids, I felt like a tug on the back of my hair. And there was this little girl, she was just standing there. And she was kind of just had this look on her face well, are you going to take my picture? Come on now, get with it. And so I took a picture of her, and then I showed it to her. And I think we didn't even say a word to each other. But I think what she just wanted was for me to have this picture to take back. I think that was kind of the connection. She knew we were not going to be there forever, but she wanted me to take the picture with me. And so it was kind of the connection there as far as the in and out kind of thing. As long as I took her picture and kept it with me on my camera, she'd be able to follow me. So that was my symbol.
Is that picture going to mean anything to you?
I think it will.
When you look at it, what do you think you'll remember?
I'm just going to see like the personality that I felt without even saying a word to her. You could just see it like in her eyes. There was that fire, like, get to taking that picture, like.
So you've seen that strength?
Yeah, the fire.
Taking that with you when you have that picture.
Yeah.
Maybe she wanted to send that with you.
Okay.
Having been here now for my third time, I see the symbols of the smile, the handshake or the touch, the circle. But each time you come, the experience is slightly different. And although you go back to the same schools and you see similar faces and you see them grow, the boy that we were able to support 2 years ago with the cricket, Dr. Liddell and I had the opportunity to interview and get the closure, found out that they actually won that tournament. So we've actually made a real positive difference in these individuals' lives. And how do you encompass that? And I go back to probably elementary school when I read this poem. I don't know who the author is, but it's called the Dash Poem. And it's like the concept that when at the end of your life, on your tombstone and how are you remembered, with your name, there's 2 dates, your birth date and then your death date. But in between the two is your dash. And that is the epitome, that summarizes everything that you've done, all your accomplishments, all your ups, your downs, your growth, your development. And it doesn't matter how you get there, so long as you are proud of what you have done throughout your life. So I know we come here, right, with the in and out thing, and it's difficult because you're here, you're making a difference. Do you really want to go see the ostriches? Probably, but if you had to choose between going to an ostrich or hang out with the kids, the majority of us would probably want to hang out with the kids, right? So, but to take away that experience, and I was talking to other individuals about it a little bit, the idea is basically to get like a taste of what this feels like. So whether your dash takes you back to South Africa or even into your own community within Chester County, Lancaster, the whole 9 yards, to have that same feeling and to apply it in another area that might be a little bit more relevant. It's not necessarily where you're doing it as long as you are doing it. So then my question to all of you is, are you going to be proud of your dash?